Question 2 wants us to distinguish between different types of variables. So first it wants us to determine if the given variable is quantitative or qualitative, and if it's quantitative, is it discrete or continuous? So let's do a quick review here first of what is a quantitative versus qualitative variable and what makes a variable discrete or continuous. So at the first level, a variable can be either quantitative or qualitative. Quantitative variables are, like they sound, quantities, or in other words, numbers. Qualitative variables are qualities, or words. So, for example, a quantitative variable is could be your age in years. A qualitative variable could be, let me write this down. So a quantitative way to look at age is to look at it in years. So for example, you're 23, you're 19, you're 6, and so on. A qualitative way to measure age could be describing yourself as, describing yourself as a kid, a teenager, or adult. So I'm using words to describe ages here, and I'm using numbers here. Now we can also classify quantitative variables as either continuous or discrete. I like to think of continuous variables as numbers that can take any number of possible values. Whereas a discrete variable can take only a fixed number of possible values. So for example, a discrete quantitative variable I like to think of as like a multiple choice question. So for example, a silly example is, how many shoes are you wearing today? Or right now? You're either wearing 0 shoes, 1 shoe, I don't know, maybe you just put on your left foot, or 2 shoes, because you only have 2 feet, right? You can only wear 2 shoes at most. So this is a discrete random variable because there's only 3 possible values. I can ask this question as a multiple choice. So I'm either wearing 0 shoes, I'm either wearing 1 shoe, or 2 shoes. Now a continuous variable, on the other hand, can take any number of possible values. So for example, if I asked, what is your bank account balance? That can take any number of possible values. I can't ask you that as if I wanted the exact account balance, I couldn't ask you that as a multiple choice question, because you could have, for example, $30.13, $30.17, maybe you have $500 and 0 cents, and so on. This is like a fill in the blank question. Okay, so now let's go ahead and answer part A through C. So part A, we want to classify the amount of gasoline put into a car at a gas station. So first, I see this keyword, amount. So that's a quantity, right? I want the number of gallons you put into the car. So that is a quantitative variable. Next, I want to figure out if it's continuous or discrete. Well, if I think about when I'm filling up my car with gasoline, on the meter, it tells me how many gallons I've put in, right? It tells me I might put in 13.1 gallons. Maybe if my tank was already half full, I'm only putting in 7.72 gallons and so on. So it gives it to me in decimal form. So there's a lot of different possibilities that I could have for the amount I put in. So this is a continuous variable. Okay, let's look at part B. Part B, we want to classify the arrival status of an airline flight. And it tells us that the airline can either be early, on time, or late. So my choices here, right, for this random variable, these are not quantities, right? They're not numbers. They're words. Early, on time, or late. So that tells me this is a qualitative variable. Last, part C, the age of an undergraduate at UMass. This is a bit of a tricky one. I think it can go, well, first of all, it's definitely a quantity, right? We're talking about age, which is a number. So if we measure it as a number, this is a quantitative variable. The reason I think this one's a little tricky is that there's an argument for it being continuous and there's an argument for it being discrete. We could say it's discrete if, we assume that students can either be, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, maybe 23, 17 as well. So it's discrete if we assume students are between 17 to 23. Or you could make an argument for saying it's continuous. Because, there's students of all ages out there. So we can say it's continuous if we assume students are of many ages on campus. Or if we want to measure age in more than just years. If we want to measure age, in decimals. If you want to say you're, 23 and a half or 23 and a quarter, and so on. So this one is definitely quantitative, but there's an argument for it being discrete or continuous, as long as you justify it.